Sorry, just realized I was on mute. Apologize for that. I was just saying good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar. We're going to give folks a minute or so to join in. And so while we're doing that, please feel free to answer the questions that just popped up on your screen for the poll. Give it another 30 seconds or so for some folks to join in. We'll get started. All right, so I have 4:01 on my computer here, so we will go ahead and kick things off. Welcome to today's webinar titled Protein, How Much and How Often for the High School Athlete. Thanks so much for joining us today to learn more about this very important topic, as many students have returned to school, whether virtual, in person, or hybrid. And many have also returned to sports as well. My name is Liz Jalkowitz, and I'm a registered dietitian with the American Dairy Association Northeast, and I also help to lead up our sports nutrition advisory panel. For those of you who are not familiar with American Dairy, we're a nonprofit organization that represents over 10,000 dairy farm families across New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and the District of Columbia. On this slide here, you'll see our Refuel with Chocolate Milk logo. Excuse me, close that out. Through Refuel with Chocolate Milk, we collaborate with a variety of partners in both the private and public sector, including our high school athletic associations across our region. So American Dairy's Refuel with Chocolate Milk program helps to sponsor lots of high school athletics within our region and helps provide funding for championship events, as well as provide nutrition education for coaches and athletes. I also want to mention here that at the end of this webinar, we are going to select 3 lucky winners to win. We're going to pick them at random, to win a Refuel with Chocolate Milk portable cooler and $300 to stock it with chocolate milk. But the kicker is that you must stay on the entire presentation to be eligible for this prize. And I also want to mention here as well that throughout the presentation, if you have any questions that pop up for the speaker, please feel free to enter them in the Q&A box so that we can answer them at the end of the presentation. All right. Here you will see our 2020 Sports Nutrition Advisory Panel here at Adane, which I help to manage. And one of their jobs, one of the main jobs of these panelists is to create relevant and timely content for our high school coaches and student athletes throughout the year. And you'll see Stephanie there on the top left, our speaker for today. Okay. So on this slide, I wanted to take a quick moment and share our website with you, which is americandairy.com. And here you can access tons of free resources ranging from general dairy nutrition on milk, yogurt, and cheese to sports nutrition information, research, and so much more. And a lot of it is things that you can share with parents and the student athletes as well. So definitely check that out. And then here are our social media handles. So if you don't already follow us, please do. And feel free to like and share our content, as a lot of it does pertain to your student athletes. All right, so now I'm very pleased to introduce to you our speaker for today, Stephanie Coppola. Stephanie is a registered dietitian and one of the sports nutrition advisory panelists here at Adane. She's also the performance nutrition assistant for the Philadelphia Eagles, and she's in her 3rd season with the Eagles, which started off as an internship through the Gatorade Sports Nutrition Immersion Program for the 2018 and 19 season. Stephanie earned her bachelor's in nutrition from NC State University, her master's degree in nutrition from Meredith College in Raleigh, North Carolina, and completed her dietetic internship through the Wellness Workdays Distance Program in Boston, Massachusetts. During her undergraduate and graduate programs, Stephanie interned for NC State's Sports Nutrition Department, working mostly with the men's and women's basketball teams, as well as football. And during her dietetic internship, she worked with the athletic department's sports nutrition department at the University of Maryland. She's also an active member of the Collegiate and Professional Sports Dietitian Association. They're very lucky to have Stephanie here with us today. And so we are going to kick it off and get started. But before Stephanie takes it away, we do have one opening poll for everybody to fill out with a couple questions. So please take a moment to do that. We just want to get a sense of what kinds of coaches are listening in today and who you guys primarily work with and what sports you coach, so that Stephanie has a sense of who she's talking to today. So please take a moment and fill that out. And also, just to mention, if you don't see the sport that you coach on there, just feel free to write check other and then use the chat box function to type in the sport. All right, Stephanie, we're just going to give it like 20 seconds or so, let folks fill that out, and then you could take it away.
Sounds good to me.
Looks like we have about 80%. So I'll just read you some of the ones in the, let's see, did anyone write in the other box? I mean, the chat box. I see a couple people checked other. Okay, athletic trainer. We have an athletic trainer as well.
Okay.
All right, it's all yours, Stephanie.
Do we have the results of the poll question? So I can
Yep, it's going to launch short. There you go. I think it just launched.
Perfect. Oh, great. We have 50-50% male and female, mostly football and basketball, and then other. Perfect. Okay, just going to close that real quick. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be talking to you all today. I appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day for this webinar. And like Liz had said, we're going to be talking about protein, how much and how often for your high school athletes. So I'm just going to shut off my camera and just go on with the presentation. Okay. Now that we have a great understanding of who's listening, we're going to start talking today about the role of protein in the diet, protein requirements, protein timing, how to properly build a performance plate, nutrition around competition, high protein snacks, and supplements and safety. So let's get started with the basics. The role of protein in the diet. Protein is one of the 3 macronutrients along with carbohydrates and fat. It is made up of 20 different amino acids or building blocks to function. 9 out of those 20 amino acids are considered essential amino acids, which ultimately means that a person can't make them on their own in their body, and they have to get them through the diet. Amino acids help to rebuild, repair, and help increase the size of the muscle fiber during muscle protein synthesis, which is the building of the muscles. They help to improve protein balance in the body and decrease muscle damage done during training, which ultimately enhances the muscle repair and growth. Protein plays many roles inside the body. It can make up tendons, ligaments, muscles, enzymes, hormones, and antibodies, along with a vast majority of other functions. Along with its functions in the muscle, protein also plays a role in supporting the immune system. Due to playing a role with producing antibodies and hormones, if the body is not getting enough protein in the diet over a long period of time, it can potentially weaken the immune system, causing someone to get sick or take longer to recover from being sick. Protein also takes longer to digest than carbohydrates, therefore helping the athlete feel full for longer, even though they are both considered 4 calories per gram. Along with all the other roles protein plays in the body, it helps support adaptations of lean body mass, strength, power, and speed, which all can come back to help the athlete's performance improve. Okay, now that protein, we talked about the basics, we're going to talk about the protein requirements. Protein needs are different depending on the person as they grow from child to teenager to adult into older adult. Children and adolescents use more energy per unit of body weight to do the exact same activity compared to an adult. So someone should not look at children and adolescents as just smaller adults, because that's not the case. For an adult, their daily protein requirements should be 10 to 35% of their total energy. However, for an adolescent, their needs are on the lower end of this range. They should aim to have 10 to 15% of their total calories to come from protein. However, they should focus more on the gram per kilogram range than the 10 to 15% of their total calories. Athletes do have a greater need for protein and therefore have higher requirements compared to their non-athlete friends. However, it is not as much as one may think. The average adult requires 0.8 grams per kilogram of protein for the day. For an adolescent athlete, their needs range from 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, depending on the athlete's size. For example, if a 150-pound athlete would need to, for a 150-pound athlete, they would need to consume 82 to 136 grams of protein evenly throughout the day. Athletes that are on the higher end of this range may be due to injury to help spare lean mass from being lost during the injury. Additionally, benefits of having certain types of protein, such as dairy, is not only that they're getting protein, but they're also getting other vitamins and minerals needed for their growth, such as calcium and vitamin D. As a side note, to convert a person's weight from pounds to kilograms, simply divide their weight from pounds to 2.2. So example, the 150-pound athlete would weigh about 68 kilograms. Now that we went over the athlete's protein requirements, the next important concept is protein timing. Most people eat protein like a pyramid. They eat the smallest portion of protein at breakfast and then the largest and biggest portion at dinner. However, to maximize protein synthesis or the building up of protein in the muscles, it's best to spread their protein throughout the entire day rather than having it in large amounts at one meal. This will help the body sustain and potentially even increase muscle mass. The athlete should aim to consume a meal or snack about every 3 hours to best optimize their fuel. This means that they should have their 3 main meals a day with 2 to 3 snacks throughout the meals, all containing protein. At each snack, they should aim to consume 0.18 to 0.3. Oh, can we just go back on that real quick? Perfect. So each snack, they should consume about 0.18 to 0.3 grams per kilogram protein, which usually equates to about 10 to 15 grams of protein per snack. Depending on the athlete's size, larger athletes will need more, but they should aim to have about 30 grams of protein per meal. Now, 1 ounce of meat is 7 grams of protein, and the serving size is 4 ounces, which is the thickness of a deck of cards and the size of a palm hand, an average person's hand palm. For post-game and post-practice, the athlete will want to consume protein with carbohydrates to help increase muscle protein synthesis and to improve the whole body's net protein balance, therefore helping better recovery for their muscles. They should also aim to have this within 2 hours of finishing practice or a game, but we'll get into this a little bit more later. Consuming about 40 grams of protein from casein or whey, milk and yogurt are examples of this, before bed may also help with muscle recovery. It's important to make sure that the athlete is eating enough calories throughout the day, however, and because the building and repairing of muscles such as muscle protein synthesis can last up to 24 hours after exercise. And in this time frame, there's a particular sensitivity to protein for growth. Now we can switch. Now we're going to discuss building a proper performance plate, which also includes protein, of course. The athlete's plate will change based on their activity level for the day. This is what a plate should look like for an easy training day of about 1 hour of non-strenuous activity, such as a light jog, lift, or even an off day. The athlete wants to have a plate made of over 1/4 of carbohydrates and aim to have at least half of their daily servings coming from whole grains such as whole wheat pasta, whole wheat bread, and brown rice. They then want 1/4 of the plate to come from lean proteins such as chicken, turkey, fish, and lean beef. For cooking purposes, the best options they would want to choose are grilling, sautéing, baking, or broiling. All of these options will help limit the unwanted fat that may come from options such as frying. Lastly, they're going to want a half of the plate to be coming from fruits and vegetables. It's important, however, at this point to have them eating a variety of different colors of fruits and vegetables because each color provides different vitamins and minerals for the body. Meals are a great time to rehydrate after working out and help to stay hydrated throughout the day. Make sure to address drinking fluids such as water, dairy, and 100% fruit juice with your athletes. They would want to include healthy fats as well, such as oils to cook with instead of using butter, or nuts and seeds on salads. And then the last point I'll point out when it comes to meals is the serving size. 1 serving of fruits, vegetables, and carbohydrates is a half of a cup, and 1 serving of protein is 4 ounces, like I mentioned earlier. This will help determine the proper protein. This will help determine the proper portions when the athlete is consuming the food. Depending on the athlete's goals and activities for the day, the portion amounts will vary, however. Okay, now we'll switch. This is going to be what a plate looks like for a moderate training day of about 1 to 2 hours of moderately strenuous activity, such as a hard lift or conditioning. The athletes will want the plate to be a little over a third coming from carbohydrates, a fourth of the plate coming from lean protein, and a little over a third of the plate coming from fruits and vegetables. All of the concepts from the previous slide will be the same, just the portions will shift due to more activity during the day. Finally, this is what a plate is going to look like for a hard training day of about 2 to 3 hours of strenuous activity, such as a game or if there's multiple training sessions in the day. The athlete wants the plate to have a half coming from carbohydrates, a fourth of the plate coming from lean protein, and a fourth of the plate to come from fruits and vegetables. Again, all of the concepts from the easy training day slide will be the same, just the portions will shift to have more carbohydrates to fuel their bodies due to having more activity during the day. As you have seen, the protein portions for the meal remain the exact same. It doesn't matter what the training day is. So it's always going to be a fourth of the plate coming from lean protein. Post-game and post-practice nutrition is key for proper recovery. The goal of having a post-game or practice meal, snack, or shake is to help repair and rebuild the muscles with the protein, refuel energy stores with the carbohydrates, and rehydrate and increase cellular water content through the fluids and electrolytes. Adding fruit to the post-game meal, snack, or shake may be beneficial to help provide antioxidants to decrease the cell damage being done after the training. For a recovery shake, having milk with Greek yogurt as the base are great options to add in protein, as well as it adds a creaminess with the Greek yogurt. One option for a post-game or practice snack is to have chocolate milk with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The chocolate milk has a good amount of protein and also has additional carbohydrates compared to regular milk. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich will contain the carbohydrates, protein, and healthy fats. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. It's recommended to consume a shake or snack within 1 hour of finishing the game or practice, then having a meal within 1 to 2 hours afterwards. If the athlete is to eat a meal without having the snack or shake, however, it's recommended to eat the meal within 2 to 3 hours after finishing the game or practice to help aid recovery. They should aim to get 20 to 40 grams of protein for their recovery in the post-activity meal, snack, or shake. I wanted to show you now some high-protein snacks that are not your typical snacks that are great to eat at home or easy on the go. Building your own trail mix, overnight oats, chia seed pudding, and protein balls are all easy to make and can be used with different ingredients each time to keep the snack option from getting old. They can also be made with different ingredients to go along with the seasons to be a little bit more festive. So right now we're getting into the winter months, so if you wanted to use some different options that are more wintry, gets you in the feel for that versus the fall versus the summer and spring. And then if the snacks are going to be consumed outside of the house that must be refrigerated, such as the overnight oats, chia seed pudding, cottage cheese, or chocolate milk, make sure to pack ice packs for food safety or keep them in a thermos. And then please keep an eye out on the American Dairy Association Facebook page. Videos will be going out over the next few weeks on a variety of different topics, including mine on high protein snacks. So make sure to check them out. In mine, I'm going to go over how to make the overnight oats, chia seed pudding, and creating your own trail mix. And if you would like any more recipes, please feel free to reach out and ask, and we can definitely share those with you. Lastly, supplements. Supplements are a hot topic when it comes to the athletes. One of the most popular supplements is protein powders. Protein consumption can enhance the rates of protein synthesis and possibly lower rates of muscle protein breakdown. Most athletes use protein powders in shakes to boost the protein content, as well as having options such as Greek yogurt, milk, nut butters, or chia seeds in the protein shakes. When combined with carbohydrate-rich foods and fats, they can be used as a snack, additional calories if the goal of the athlete is to gain weight, and recovery from activity. However, I do not recommend having a shake as a meal replacement. An important concept when it comes to supplements is that they are not being regulated by the FDA before being put into the public. Many supplements are sold without being checked for safety, impurities, inaccurate claims, or ingredient lists. This ultimately puts the athlete or anybody taking it at greater risk of potentially consuming harmful or banned substances. They're also costly when an athlete can consume adequate protein from a well-balanced diet. If an athlete does decide to take a supplement, however, it's recommended to purchase a brand that has been third-party certified. That indicates that the supplement underwent rigorous screening to protect against adulteration, verifies label claims, identifies any banned substances in the finished product, verifies the ingredient list, and are safer to use ultimately. NSF for Sport is the gold standard third-party testing, and informed choice is another great option. When purchasing supplements, have the athlete look for these labels to ensure that they are getting something that is tested and safe for them to use. NSF for Sport and Informed Choice both have websites where the athlete can look up supplements beforehand going to the store to see if they are tested. And NSF for Sport even has a mobile app to scan supplement containers to see if they're certified. So I would definitely have your athletes, if they're going to be getting a supplement, to download the NSF for Sport app and use that to find something that is safer for them to use. Now I'm going to open up the floor to any questions you may have.
Hi, Stephanie. You can turn your camera back on whenever you'd like. Thank you so much. I think this presentation, anything about protein is just so trendy. Well, I feel like we say trendy, but it's been around for so long. Everyone's always very interested in the topic of protein. So thanks so much for just really kind of walking everyone through it. I think coaches get asked lots of questions from their student athletes, and protein is probably, if not the top, one of the top 3 things they get asked. So we appreciate your expertise and knowledge on the topic. So thanks for that. Please feel free. Yeah, if anyone has questions, we have some time to answer them. I know a couple of questions came through, so we'll get started with those. But in the meantime, if you think of anything, feel free to type it in the Q&A box. So the first one that came through is about protein. So whenever people think that something is good, typically they think more is better. And so is it bad for especially student athletes, high school kids, is it bad for them to consume too much protein, and why?
So you want, for an athlete, especially if they're trying to maintain lean body mass, you would want them to have higher amounts of protein. But ultimately, like I mentioned earlier, they don't need too much more than their regular everyday friends that might not play sports. And so they'll really want to just get the right amount. And that's sometimes when they take supplements, if they're trying to boost their protein when they're already getting enough in their diet, that extra little bit isn't really doing much for them. So they're not going to need all of that, just actually adding in additional calories, which will ultimately just help gain weight. And so it's kind of like the same thing with eating carbohydrates or fat. When you're having the additional calories, that's when you gain weight, but it's not doing anything else for the muscles than having the right portion that they're supposed to be having.
That's a great answer, and I think it's great for people to hear that. Like sometimes once you go past your protein needs, at that point, it's just really the calories that your body's taking in. And unless you're trying to, if you have a goal of gaining weight, then really, other than that, it's not doing any good. So, great answer.
And like what I'll say again, real quick, sorry, is many people don't realize that 1 ounce. So if you're having 1 ounce of, say, cheese, that's 7 grams of protein. So you might not be thinking that you're getting that much protein, but you actually are. So a 4-ounce serving of chicken will give you 28 grams of protein. And so you don't have to really go above and beyond. So when you're going to a steakhouse and getting that 20-ounce serving of steak, you're really having additional calories because that protein is not needed. Whereas that's where you want to kind of split it up into the smaller doses spread throughout the day. So maybe 10 to 15 grams, 20 grams throughout the rest of the day instead of the huge portion at dinner time.
That's a great point. And I think it also goes back to, you mentioned before about like shakes really shouldn't be used as meal replacements. And I think a lot of times people do that. They'll just, let me have a shake for lunch, let me have a shake for dinner, whether it's convenience or whatever it is, thinking that more protein is better. I think that was a great point that you gave there too. Another question came in about recommendation for determining how many calories an athlete should get.
So you want to be able to, so doing your calories is you'll use the athlete's regular, what their weight is, and then if it's maintaining, losing, gaining, you want to factor that in. So you'll add in 250 to maybe 500 more calories per day, because you don't want the athlete to gain more than 1 to 2 pounds per week. And so if it is to gain or lose, you'll just make those slight adjustments. And then you have to add in the activity factor. So if it's an off day and the athlete isn't going to be doing as much activity, then they're going to want to consume less than if it was a game day and they're playing for 2 to 3 hours, then they're going to have a higher activity factor for them. So I can get the little calculation, send that over to Liz, and she can share that out for you guys if you'd like.
That'd be great. I'll definitely include that in the post-webinar e-blast that goes out. And then the last question, one other question we got was about vegetarian athletes, and is it difficult for them to get enough protein? I know that's something, here at American Dairy we say is, you could be a plant-based diet and include dairy as well. So, it doesn't necessarily apply to those vegan athletes, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on those that might be vegetarian and how they can, get enough protein in their diet.
So vegetarian diets, yes, they can get as much protein as they need in their diet. It just might take a little bit more planning, especially if an athlete is new to becoming vegetarian or vegan. It's going to take more planning ahead of time to figure out where they're going to get their protein sources. But tofu, tempeh, legumes, beans,
chia seeds.
There's a variety. Chia seeds. There's a variety of different options that give the athlete the protein that they're going to need, and it doesn't have to come specifically from the meat. So a lot of people that are vegetarian or vegan will eat lots of beans with their foods, or they're now actually coming out with different burgers and substitute meats that are all vegetarian and vegan based, and it has a great amount of protein because they're blending things together and putting it. So Beyond Burgers and Impossible Burgers, I know our athletes love those, and they are vegetarian options for them to have, but they're getting their right amount of protein that they're needed. So I would definitely say, and then like you said earlier, as long as they're not vegan, getting it from yogurt, Greek yogurt, which does have more protein than regular yogurt, regular milk, chocolate milk, nuts, seeds, cheese. There's so many different options that the athlete can get protein through that it's not coming from chicken, beef, fish. So I definitely say that the athlete, if they are vegetarian or vegan, they can get the protein that they need. It's just going to take a little bit more planning on the front end, And then as they're going down and say they're 2 or 3 years into becoming a vegetarian or vegan, it's going to be a lot more easy for them to have options. And then even if they're eating out, there's so many different restaurants now. I know COVID being friendly, make sure you're taking your social distance. But if once COVID's over or at school lunches, they are having a lot more options that are vegan and vegetarian. And so if the athlete is to go out, or if you're doing a post-game dinner with your family, seeing you, normally they have a V next to it, or just asking the waiter or waitress what the vegetarian or vegan options are, because most of the time they're going to have options for it. So it is a little bit easier for them now than it was even 5-10 years ago.
That's true. Same with like gluten-free. Yeah, I feel like they're becoming a lot more accommodating. So that's a great point. Great.
Definitely.
Those are all the questions that came through for us today. So again, I just want to say thank you, Stephanie, for your expertise on the topic and the great questions that were asked today. We appreciate your engagement for those that joined. So on the next slide here, I just want to remind everyone that we, as I'm on this slide, we can also launch our post-webinar polling questions as well. So you could take a minute and fill that out. But during the webinar today, we did select our 3 lucky attendees at random to win a Refuel with Chocolate Milk portable cooler. And then you get $300 also to stock it with chocolate milk, all for your student athletes. And those 3 winners today are, I wish I had a drum roll, but we don't. Sorry. Nikki Short, Lisa Brown, and Dylan Heagy. And I apologize if I said your last name wrong. But I will be contacting the 3 of you after the webinar individually, and we will figure out the logistics of getting those prizes to you. So again, congratulations. You will all be receiving a post-webinar e-blast as well in a couple days from American Dairy, and it will include a link to the recording of this webinar today, as well as the presentation slides. You'll also receive a handout that kind of recaps this whole presentation today, and we'll also let you know about our last webinar in the series, which will be held next Wednesday, the 18th at 4 p.m. So in closing, again, I just want to say thank you all so much for attending, taking time out of your day to listen in a very important topic for your student athletes. And thank you again, Stephanie, for your expertise. So we will see you next Wednesday. Take care.